Joining us now is Tal Heinrich, spokeswoman for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Tal, thank you very much for being here. How do you respond to the criticism that this report does not fully explain what happened?
Well, thank you for having me on this morning, Jim. I think this was a preliminary report, a preliminary assessment, and we will have to wait for the final findings of this investigation. You see, I think it's a matter of days, weeks. It's not a matter of months. And, you know, when we do something wrong, when there's a mistake made on our behalf, on Israel's side, we take responsibility. We say the truth. We admit things, even when it's the most painful, inconvenient truth to admit. And I think people have to remember that. That was a very, very tragic incident involving the unsung heroes of Ward Central Kitchen, as one of my colleagues calls them, unsung heroes of armed conflict. It should not have happened, and we should draw the right conclusions and implement lessons in order for this not to reoccur. Already I can tell you that we've set up a situation room for better coordination between the IDF and these aid groups on the ground, because they're doing the all-important work. And this specific organization, by the way, they were one of the first ones to show up right after October 7th, being there on the ground, helping civilians on both sides of the border.
Yeah, and Tal, I mean, the convoy was marked with the logos of the World Central Kitchen. And World Central Kitchen says it was coordinating its movements with the IDF. How could your forces make such a grave mistake, as your government has described it?
Well, mistakes, tragedies happen during wars, and it's not a war that we wanted. It's not a war that we started. You and I would not have been having this conversation if Hamas had not invaded our country with their army of terrorists on October 7th. That is very, very unfortunate. But you know, and you covered conflicts around the world, I believe, where U.S. forces have been involved. And mistakes, tragically, yeah, they do happen. But we have to draw the right lessons to make sure that they don't happen again.
And I do want to ask you about the humanitarian corridors that are being opened up. Your government has announced that in a phone call yesterday. President Biden, though, did deliver a stark warning to the prime minister, saying they need to take steps, the Israelis do, to ease the humanitarian crisis in Gaza or risk losing U.S. support. And I did want to ask you a specific question about that. Is Israel pledging to not only open up these corridors that you've announced, but also to assure that they are safe enough for aid workers to do what they do? Are you going to make that pledge?
Well, you see, let me first list the number of steps that we have decided upon. A war cabinet convened yesterday, and at the end of the meeting, a few more steps were announced. We decided that we will enable the temporary insertion of humanitarian aid through the maritime ports in Ashdod, the Erez border crossing, which is a pedestrian crossing in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. And it was stormed by these terrorists on October 7th. As well as an increase of the Jordanian aid, the humanitarian assistance that will continue to be facilitated via Kerem Shalom. I think it's important for viewers to understand that there are more food trucks entering Gaza now daily than before the war. So aid is flowing into Gaza, 240 trucks a day. Yesterday, the day before, a couple hundred trucks every day. We're talking about more than a quarter million tons of food, just food.
Right, but my question is about the safety of these workers, and nearly 200 humanitarian aid workers have been killed in Gaza since the war began. Has Israel had a policy of shooting first and asking questions later?
I don't know about these numbers. I don't know about these numbers. I don't know where you're taking them from. But again, I don't have these numbers. These are numbers that are coming from Gaza, which I take with a grain of salt. But again, specifically talking about this incident, we should do everything in our power to make sure that nothing of this kind will ever reoccur. So this is why we set up the situation room for better coordination. And of course, there's a lot of focus on that too, because you mentioned the phone call. Washington and Jerusalem, we do want the same things. We want to see Hamas eliminated. We want to see all hostages returning home, and a Gaza that will never pose a terror threat to Israel again. And while we're working towards these goals, we want to see minimal civilian suffering, minimal collateral damage in Gaza. These are
would you say that there has been minimal civilian? Tal, would you say that there? I mean, just objectively speaking, there hasn't been minimal civilian suffering. There's been great civilian suffering. Isn't that right?
Well, this is a war that we didn't start and we didn't want, and the civilian suffering. You missed the second part of my sentence. That these are two things that Hamas continuously seeks to increase, because this is what their entire strategy, Jim, and you know it very well, is based upon. They hope that Israel will take the fire for their vile actions, and that international pressure will be used as leverage on Israel instead of on them.
Let me ask you about
another day to carry out another October 7th massacre.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and we have covered all of that extensively, but you have said, and your government has said, you want to make sure Hamas never rules again in Gaza. I do want to ask you if you can explain the fact that your government allowed the funding of Hamas for years. We can show our viewers this story in the New York Times. It says, quote, for years, the Qatari government had been sending millions of dollars a month into the Gaza Strip, money that helped prop up the Hamas government. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel not only tolerated those payments, he had encouraged them. Shouldn't the Prime Minister be held accountable for encouraging the funding of Hamas?
Let's set the record straight here. Money that went into Gaza, if it's from the Palestinian Authority, if it's money from Qatar, was meant for the benefit of the civilians of Gaza. There's no illusion in Israel, not of the Prime Minister, not of anyone, and there was no illusion about Hamas even prior to October 7th. The Prime Minister in 2005, he resigned after the Gaza Disengagement Act, and back then he said that
right,
Gaza,
but if Hamas was running Gaza, he had to know that the money was going to go to
Hamas with ISIS.
But if Hamas was, if Hamas was running Gaza, then he had to know that money was essentially flowing to Hamas, whether it was going to go to civilians or whatever.
I hear your concern about money from Qatar, but, you know, let's talk about U.S. taxpayer money that, you know, went to the Palestinians for, you know, throughout the years, went to UNRWA, and eventually ended up inciting terror and building these terror tunnels as well in the terror infrastructure.
Are you blaming the United States?
I think we have to focus on that.
Are you blaming the United States?
I think that the lessons of the past teach us.
Is that what you're? Are you saying?
But I'm just saying that.
Right. Well, I'm
Jim,
asking you. I'm asking you
about
about the Prime Minister authorizing this money going to Hamas, essentially.
But,
and
so I'm saying,
shouldn't there be accountability for that?
General notion, Jim. I'm talking about the general notion here that any kind of money that was meant to the benefit of the Palestinian people, no matter where it came from, eventually went to funding terrorism and inciting the murdering of the Jewish people and
didn't the Prime Minister know who Hamas was?
I mean, that is the main impediment to peace. Now,
did he make a bad bet?
What? Say again?
Did he make a bad bet? He knew who Hamas was. He knew they were capable of this.
So
there were warnings to your government prior to October 7th that were ignored.
Jim, this is why I was saying that moving forward, learning from past mistakes, we should all demand that any kind of reconstruction of Gaza should be intertwined with de-radicalization of the Palestinian society, because we can't have money going to fund terrorism again.
All right, Tal Heinrich, I hope we can continue this discussion. Thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.